Transformational leadership and fairness. When it comes to efficient communication within the workplace, there are a plethora of ways that a transformational leader can enhance the effectiveness, increase the validity, as well as accurately convey the message. Now, how do we measure the effectiveness of the leader, and what does that include? Well, what do we look for? In a transformational leader, we look for a leader who's motivating, a leader who's encouraging, one that is fair. We look for communication competence. Can that leader clearly get the message across, as well as talk to anyone, whether it be a janitor or a CEO? Can that leader communicate? And the organizational identification. How does that leader identify with the company? Is it strong? Is it negative? Are they comfortable where they're at, or are they just going by? How do they feel about where they work, and are they happy about it? And essentially what we can gather from looking at those things is, are transformational leaders perceived to be fair by their employees? Well, how do we measure fairness in a transformational leader? Well, selflessness. Is that leader selfish, or are they giving? Do they contribute to the company through management contributions? Do they provide new ideas? Do they support new employee ideas? Do they encourage input from new employees? All of these can lead to the betterment of the company, as well as having a positive organizational identification. That can lead to trust, and it can lead to improving employee and employer interactions, and just mainly overall great job satisfaction. Now, if it were negative, if the person or the leader or the employee was not happy about where they worked, that can lead to the demise of interactions between employees and employers. And also, clear goals. Are the goals being communicated by the leader? Are they clear? Is the leader and the employee, are they aware of what they're supposed to bring to the company? Are they aware of the expectations they're supposed to meet? And are the visions for the company, are they foreseeable? Is everybody on the same page? Well, how do we measure this? Well, now that we know what to look for and what's measurable, how we measure it is a survey. And in this case, a survey was sent to 9 participants via email. And the survey addresses how employees feel about their company and the management capabilities. It measures the things that we talked about previously in the previous slide: organizational identification, fairness, communication competence, and it also has demographics such as age, sex, and so on. And from that, a sample question off of the survey would be, or a statement rather, the training in this company has enabled me to do my job very well. And then the participant would just mark strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or neutral, So that's the survey. And regarding the survey, we did get some results. And these figures won't make sense to you right off, but organizational identification proved to be reliable. Communication competence proved to be reliable. Fairness scale proved to be reliable. And there was a strong correlation between organizational identification and fairness. And another unexpected result was the organizational identification was stronger for blacks than it was for whites. We can look at that by looking at the M is the mean, which is the average, and the M for the mean for the whites is 1.40. The higher mean means the stronger correlation. So in this case, in relation to organizational identification, blacks had a stronger sense of who they are and what they were expected to do as an employee at the particular company that they work at. Now, I gave you a brief interpretation of the correlation between organizational identification and its relation to race, or nationality, ethnicity. Now we're going to interpret the rest of the results. Now, all the scales are closely related to one another, meaning that the values were low on the other scales, such as I think you saw like a 0.7 or a 0.1 or 0.71, 0.72, those proved to be reliable. The answers were from a small group, so they were more condensed, they were less spread out, as opposed to if we had like 1,000 people, then the answers would vary, and it would just increase the probability. It would pretty much dilute the responses, dilute the answers. The lower values are more condensed. And as far as the significant correlations, organizational identification, it was proven that those who have a strong sense of identity at the place that they work at, if the leaders were themselves proven to be competent at that job, if they liked what they were doing, if they exhibited that, then they would pretty much go by the rules, and then the people in the company would perceive them as fair, because not only do they like their work, they're going to look out for the best interest of those people in the company, so they were perceived as fair. People who were strong in their leaders who were strong in their organizational identification also proved to be competent as far as communication, which means they were able to clearly explain what's expected of the employees. They were also exhibiting what's expected of them from the company to the employees, so that significant correlation was great in that respect. As mentioned in the previous slide, blacks were more confident in their roles than whites, and that was proven by the mean. The mean was much higher. The average of votes from the communication competence section was higher for blacks than it was for whites, and that could mean a lot of things. And although additional studies would be needed to determine why that is, one can conclude many things, like the training probably was different with the whites, and maybe a different training class where black people in one class had a better trainer, or the second class didn't have such a great trainer, so things were not interpreted correctly by the employee, so that could make them uncomfortable or insecure about how they view their job duties. It could be individual confidence levels, upbringing. It could be a number of things that could determine why certain people feel stronger in their positions than others. So that just leaves the gate open for more studies to be rendered to find those results. And lastly, overall, a transformational leader, is one that is fair. It's one that's competent. That leader is aware of themselves and others, and they also exhibit qualities necessary to analyze and break down any preconceived notions in order to build up a platform that prepares employees to receive the knowledge that is being given. That, my folks, is a transformational leader.